Okay, this way inherent problems are going to slow down, then they are not going to affect our business, and we will be in a better position to achieve our objectives. So the risk that business won't be able to achieve its objective, that is business risk, will be also reduced. Okay, so lesser the possibility inherent problems are going to affect the business, lesser the business risk is going to be. Objectives or goals, whatever it is, okay, if it is affecting any two of these or any other thing, any good of our business, it is a risk. Objectives in turn achieve the goals. Okay, so whatever, whether it is affecting our objective of goal or goal, it means the same thing. It is the business risk. Okay, but does it necessarily mean that with internal control system all of the inherent problems are catered? All the problems are fought back? All the problems are sorted out? No. The chances are still there that even with the internal control system, some of the inherent problems might be affecting you so badly that you won't be able to achieve your objectives. That is the control risk. Higher the control risk is, higher the business risk is going to be. Okay, so that's why your business risk is the product of inherent risk and control risk. In order to reduce the business risk, I'm going to first of all reduce the inherent risk. I will not be getting myself involved in such activities that increases the amount of inherent problems I have to face. Once that is done, I will make my control system effective and efficient. I will be upgrading it on timely basis so that it is able to fight every other problem which I am overseeing, overlooking, or which I cannot ignore, which I have to face. Okay, so that means inherent risk and control risk, both of these risks must be reduced to reduce the business risk. We have no other option. And who is responsible for this? Management. But in here in F8, we are not interested in all kinds of business risks. Business risks are of several types, right? Every objective of the business has its associated business risk. But one of the objectives of the management in which we are interested, being an auditor, is the objective of providing accurate and timely information to its users. That is one of its business objectives. Now, any problem with this objective or the risk that the information provided by the management is not correct or is materially misstated, in other words, it is called risk of material misstatement. So risk of material misstatement is basically one kind of business risk. That's why when I was discussing this few days back, I said risk of material misstatement is equals to inherent risk and control risk. So risk of material misstatement can be reduced only by reducing inherent and control risk. Okay? But this is something to be worried about. This is a worry of management, not the auditor. Why are we studying it? Why are we so involved in understanding risk of material misstatement? Well, the reason is, let's understand what is the job of auditor. What is auditor for? What is the job of the auditor? Why is he doing all that? He's doing all this to examine or expressing opinion? He's doing all this to express the opinion. Examination is just helping him to express an opinion. Otherwise, he's not there to examine anything. His real job is not to examine things. Okay. He's not there to prove anything here. No. His authority is not that high. Financial statements are approved by management. Come on. He's just expressing an opinion. Nothing more than that. Alright. So his job is to express an opinion. And what is it? Telling users whether financial statements are in accordance with ground realities or not. If financial statements are in accordance with the reality, then they are giving true and fair view, right? But if they are materially misstated, and the auditor ends up saying that they are giving true and fair view, is he not wrong? He is gravely wrong. He is very wrong. And we call it that he is giving an inappropriate opinion. He said the financial statements are giving true and fair view where it has the material misstatements in it. Now why has it happened, or why we expect that it can happen? Well, it will be happening if risk of material misstatement is high. More the risk of material misstatement is, more is the possibility that auditor will end up giving inappropriate opinion. So the possibility that auditor will be giving an inappropriate opinion is called audit risk, and that is associated with risk of material misstatement, and that is the reason auditor is so interested in risk of material misstatement as well. But in order to assess risk of material misstatement, he cannot do that directly. He will have to assess inherent and control risk. And in order to assess inherent risk, he will have to study the whole business, the way it is being managed, the nature of its operation, the environment in it is working, the types of customers they have, the types of suppliers they have, everything. What kind of facilities are given by the government? What are the expectations that these facilities will be taken back? Everything connected and associated with the business will help him understand inherent risk. And then he has to assess that what kind of internal control system is implemented by management. How effective is it? How efficiently is it working? Is it even capable of fighting inherent problems? Is it keeping the inherent risk low? Because if internal control system is not working good, again the risk of material misstatement is going to be high, and he is going to be affected indirectly because of that. That's why he's so worried about it. He is not worried that internal control system is not effective. He is worried that because of ineffectiveness of internal control system, he might end up giving inappropriate opinion. So he is doing this examination not for the management, not for the users, but for himself. Okay? So we can say that audit risk is associated with risk of material misstatement. And in order to reduce audit risk, What does he have to do? Like reducing the control risk or an inherent risk? No. He's not the management. He's not part of the management. That's why we are saying he's independent. That's why we are taking his opinion. He has no control over reducing risk of material misstatement. So the only thing he can do to avoid audit risk is to detect such problems. So that if he finds material misstatement, he must be designing his procedures in a way that if material misstatement exists in the financial information, then he must be able to identify them. And in that case, he will not be giving a wrong opinion. So the only option he has now is to detect detect material misstatements in the financial information. Okay? And he will be applying detective procedures for this. This way, if he is able to detect material misstatement, the chances of giving wrong opinion are going to be reduced. But does it mean that he will be able to identify all of the material misstatements? Well, he must be. Come on. He must be very vigilant. He must be doing everything with due care and diligence. That's what we understood in ethics also. But still the possibility is there. He's also a human. So the probability that even the procedures of the auditor won't be able to catch material misstatements that exist in the financial information, that is called detection risk. So it's not just the risk of material misstatement that causes audit risk to increase. If auditor is unable to detect material misstatement, even then audit risk is also going to increase. Okay, so let's complete the equation now. It is like this. Audit risk is a product of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. And we know that risk of material misstatement consists of inherent and control risk. So let's me rewrite the whole equation now. See how everything gets connected here now? But we know that auditor has no control over these two risks. So they will always be considered together. They will always be discussed together and not separately. So, and also he has no control over these two risks. So in order to reduce audit risk, the only option he has is to reduce detection risk. He must make sure that he is able to catch material misstatement if it exists in the financial information. Well, if it does not exist, he doesn't have to worry, come on. But if it does, he must be able to identify it. And how do you reduce detection risk? How do you do that? Well, it's just the same way as you are preparing for F8. The less you prepare, the more chances are that you are going to fail. The more you prepare, the lesser the chances gets that you will be failing the exam. But are you able to completely eliminate it? No, you will never be able to do this. You will not find any person at all in the world that he is going to say that he will be getting 100 marks in F8. And he just writes a certificate of it and he gets 100 marks also. No, chances are there. Even if you are really well prepared, chances are there that you will be failing the exam. Similarly, what auditor do so that he won't fail in expressing an opinion? He'll be doing more examination. He'll be putting more care in his work. He'll be more detailed. He will be more cautious. Okay? This way detection risk is reduced. Alright? And higher the risk of material gets, more the risk of material misstatement is, more effort has to be made. That's why in the books you are going to read that there is an inverse relationship between risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Implication for the auditor is if risk of material misstatement is increasing, auditor must take steps to reduce detection risk even more. Okay? Because if more garbage is getting into the financial information, the chances are that you will be missing more of it. That's why you have to be more stringent. You have to be more strict. You have to be examining more things. Okay? And this is how the detection risk is going to be reduced. And how do you measure detection risk? Well, it is basically part of our judgment, and we'll be discussing it in P7. Yeah, not here. How do you measure the risks? It's all part of the discussion of P7. I mean, how do you determine materiality? There are certain ways, there are certain steps to do it, but it will be part of our discussion in P7, Advanced Audit and Assurance. Okay. Now once we have understood the risks and how they are connected, now we can understand that why auditor is so worried about risk. Audit risk is the auditor may express inappropriate when statement are materially misstated. Yes, it is. Risk of giving inappropriate opinion. It is audit risk. So any questions so far? If no one has any question, I would be moving forward. Right. Okay, I hope others are feeling the same as well, including Rekha. Okay. Alright, let's get back a little bit. I said that in order to assess audit risk and in order to judge whether detection risk is at an appropriate level, that means it has been reduced to the right level, he must know what is the level of risk of material misstatement. And to know that and to learn how significant risk of material misstatement is, he must know how significant inherent and control risks are. And there I suggested a few minutes back that he will have to understand how the operations are being conducted, how the business is managing its day-to-day activities. This is what we call understanding entity, its operations, and its internal control system. We have a full standard for that. ISA 315. The whole standard discusses only this part, that how are you going to understand the entity, its environment, and its internal control system. Three things. Okay. Well, the procedures auditor applies to gain understanding of these three things are called risk assessment procedures. Why I'm not calling them understanding procedures? Why risk assessment procedures? Because auditor is gaining understanding Not to learn something new, not to have general knowledge about entity. Come on. He is trying to understand things only to assess the risks. He's only trying to identify associated problems, associated risk it has. Okay, so the main purpose of understanding is risk assessment. That's why risk assessment procedures, and there are several different ways of assessing risks of material misstatement. Okay, so I was saying that does it mean by only understanding the entity auditor is able to express an opinion on its financial statements? No. Risk assessment procedures alone are incapable of giving you sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So by only gaining understanding, by only understanding a thing, you won't be able to give opinion if you are an auditor. It's just like that if you have understood what is auditing, like you have understood the basics, are you prepared to give an exam of F8? Even if you have read the whole book and understood it, does it mean that you are prepared for F8? No, you need to confirm yourself. And you do this by confirming yourself and doing more questions. Doing practice by attempting past exam questions. Similarly, auditor needs to confirm, he has to see whether his initial expectation is right. So I was saying that it will not be able, it is not a good idea that you, being an auditor, express an opinion only on the basis of understanding. And for that I gave an example that even if you have understood the whole book of F8, if you have not attempted the questions, if you haven't practiced enough, you won't be able to do well in the exam. Okay? So you need to confirm. And to confirm the initial expectations derived from risk assessment procedures, auditor applies further audit procedures. And this is where the tests of controls and substantive procedures are going to fall. Okay? When auditor applies tests of controls, he confirms his expectation whether tests of controls are working effectively or not. In both the cases, if he says that internal control systems are effective, he will be applying test of control to confirm the same. If he says that internal control system is not good, even then he is going to apply test of controls to confirm the same. And the second one are substantive procedure. Also, the confirmatory ones. How are they going to be applied? When auditor judges that internal control system is not effective, then it resultantly also mean that risk of material misstatement is high. The possibility that financial information is materially misstated is high. And substantive procedures are applied to detect material misstatements, to confirm the same expectation. So auditor will be looking for material misstatements, and if he finds any, the same will be confirmed, and if he is unable to find any, then in that case he might have to review whether his initial expectation is correct or not. So this is how the further audit procedures work, and once the same is confirmed, auditor will start making conclusions, and once the conclusions are reached, then auditor will be in a position to express an opinion by writing a report to the users. Okay, and what kind of opinion he has to give? It all depends on how the engagement has proceeded, what circumstances were. So that's it. Anything you people want to ask? Thank you. Well, it's not the opinion that affects the evidence, it's the evidence that affects the opinion. Because opinion is based on the evidence collected. Auditor applies procedures, gather audit evidence, and based on the evidence he makes conclusions, and then the conclusions help him to reach opinion.